Walton can tip it. Bryant with the save.
Oh, you're going to get a shot here.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are live. Welcome to Off the Backboard NBA Space. I am your host, Rico Modern World with the Sports Affiliation, and with me I have my wonderful co-host, Mr. Deontay Adams 01. Deontay, what's going on with you, man? How's life been going for you so far?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm just chilling for the most part. You know, I'm excited that basketball has has taken full effect. So I'm just here for all the action.
That's what's up. As you guys can tell, we got an intro this week. I wasn't able to get that set up last week, but today I wanted to make sure we got that in. So luckily enough, we got that. We'll work on it a little bit more, but like I said, I like what we had. It's pretty good. So we get something, having people going up for it a little bit in terms of like giving them something to get ready for. So as always, this episode is brought to you by the Sports Affiliation. We are a wonderful group of individuals who love to talk about everything sports, whether it be betting, fantasy, any type of sports, NBA, football, college basketball just started up, and we had some interesting things going on there as well. We probably get to that a little bit with the LSU women's team losing, and I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. But like I said, this is the NBA show, so we want to get into the NBA a little bit. Basically, I want to just kind of get on a few things. We'll start with the play-in tournament, how that's kind of been playing out so far. So for those of y'all that don't necessarily know what the NBA in-season tournament is, it's something that just started up this year, obviously. So we are looking to kind of see how that plays out. Basically, all 30 teams are grouped into, groups of 5, and there's 6 different groups. So the way it works out, you are in group play. Whoever has the best record out of that, out of those 6 divisions, moves on, and then there's 2 wild cards, and then from there, single elimination to Vegas. So I think the biggest thing that a lot of people are really iffy about is like, I saw a lot on Twitter. Everyone's like, I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what's going on. And it's just like, I don't know what this madness is. It's just another preseason game. But Deontay, just going on from like that first couple of the games and stuff like that throughout the season, it seems as though the NBA is in the midst of wanting to try to make the regular season more, I guess, enjoyable and more watchable for fans is the biggest thing. What is your opinion on that? And what do you think how do you feel the first week of the in-season tournament has gone so far?
Honestly, you want to know how they can make the NBA more enjoyable or the NBA season more enjoyable is if they just keep things the way they are. Like, I just don't understand like the full-on necessity of this whole NBA in-season tournament. Like, what happened to just watching basketball, the regular way? I understand that the season drags on, right? And it tends to get, overwhelming 82 games and all that fun stuff. But, we have stuff like the All-Star break, right? To just kind of get a little bit of a break from like watching all those games. But Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't know. The whole concept is still kind of like relatively new to me. And Jesus Christ, some of the basketball courts that have this whole trophy thing, no, I'm not. Some of them look awful. I forgot whose team's court looked the worst. I think it was either the Pacers or the
Pacers court was
awful. It's like, no, I'm not. Oh gosh. Like I said, it's still a relatively new concept to me, and I'm still trying to like make sense of all of this, as is the average NBA fan. But we just gotta wait it out and let's see what happens in the next few weeks, because I don't know, it's looking pretty rocky.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of see how the NBA is looking at different tactics to kind of get more fans into the game and just kind of making them wanting to look more at the regular season. Because you look at individuals like us, we're kind of like, I would say, diehard NBA fans. We kind of look, we look at our teams obviously, but we're also in the midst of like kind of putting our eyes on other games and kind of seeing how other teams are doing and stuff like that. And with this in-season tournament, I think for a lot of people, it's just to kind of get them more interested in kind of seeing what there is to offer. So I want to kind of bring up the standings real quick. I was able to kind of pull these up real quick and just kind of see how they are playing themselves out right now. So we can go and take a look at this real quick and just kind of see
absolutely
where these NBA standings are for the in-season tournament. So basically what this is boiling down to at this current moment, as you can tell, if I can get this up real quick. I thought I had it.
Yeah, these are, yep.
So, all right. So we got this right here with the standings. If you look at it, it is, like I said, this is just going off of the in-season tournament. This isn't this isn't like the actual standings. So, like I said, you got all 30 NBA teams, Group A, Group B, Group C in the East and West. The top team in each group is going to advance, like I said. So you got those 6 teams that would advance. And then you have 2 more teams that are going to be at-large teams that are going to be going based off of, I think the tiebreaker is the point differential of how much you won or lost. Going to be the
I think it's the point differential. I believe that's what's going to be the tiebreaker. I'll look into it, but that's what it's leaning towards.
Yeah, so looking at it right now, like not everybody has played an in-season tournament game yet. You've only had a few teams that did. But you see a lot of these teams right here have already, so you can go and look at that right there. As it stands right now, if it were to end today, Pacers would be, one of those teams, the Heat, the Nets, the Trailblazers, Nuggets, and the Golden State Warriors. That's kind of how it would be. And then the last 2 teams will be decided via tiebreaker. So that's just kind of an idea of what it looks like right now. Obviously, it's going to change within the next week or so. And this tournament goes on, like I said, it started this past week. And it's going into over the next couple of weeks. It'll be going into December as well, and it'll be just kind of more of kind of getting people into this a little bit more. And like I said, for a lot of these guys, I think you're gonna hear this term. And NBA Twitter is so funny. Like it's all about legacy now with how many championships you have, and this is another thing to add to somebody's resume. It's like, oh, this guy won the in-season tournament, and he was the MVP of the tournament, and best, stuff like that. And it's going to be that way. And I'm just sitting here like, I understand how people want to be, but you can't necessarily sit here and say that every little thing that the NBA does has to be added towards somebody's legacy. I understand a lot of people looked at it when the Golden State Warriors won the title in 2022 and Steph won the finals MVP. And everybody's like, that's what he was missing. He needed his legacy. I know that's kind of a sore spot for you a little bit. But everybody was looking at him to have that. So, I mean, this is going to be another one of those things that's like, hey, this team won the in-season tournament. It's going to add to, their greatness. It's going to add to this person's legacy. They did this, they did that. So, that's kind of my spiel on it. I don't know if you had any other thoughts to input on it, like, whether you want to talk about courts, their jerseys, or just how do you think the NBA should tweak this, if at all, going forward?
No, sir. I don't think I have anything else to say about the in-season tournament. It's just, it's just a whole new thing. My God, it's just a whole bunch just wrapped into one. So I don't know. We'll see what the next few weeks bring about, and we'll see if I'm starting to like it. We'll see.
I got you. So if we're switching over from the in-season tournament, we'll now go back and look at the actual full regular season in its entirety and kind of take a look at those standings and see how it plays out. So we got those pulled up right here. Basically, like I said, it's not going to take too much to kind of look at. So is that JR in the building? JR, what's up with you? I see him down there.
Oh, there he is.
Clippers will be a shoo-in for winning the in-season tournament.
You
only got to score like a few games. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you don't necessarily have to have like your best effort going out there every day. You just need to be, win 4 to 5 games, be at the top of your group, and then you're a shoo-in after that. So it's just, I don't know. But again, it all goes down to like injuries and other stuff. So I mean, I don't know why I put injuries in air quotes. Injuries and things is going to be another thing that plays into like any game, regular season or not. Preseason, that's just kind of how it's be. But we look at the actual NBA standings here. Just kind of take a look at those real quick. Like I said, you will see some familiar faces or some familiar teams up on the top, obviously. So we want to take a look at that real quick. So looking at it right here, obviously Boston Celtics are sitting at that top spot, number 1 seed. You look at the Philadelphia 76ers, they're sitting at the 2 spot. Milwaukee's 3, other stuff like that. You got Atlanta, Indy, and Orlando. So like it's early in the season. I get that, but at the same time, you just never really know what's going to happen. Cleveland is sitting in that threshold of like playing area next to the Raptors and the Nets, and then you look down here in this bottom feeder area, and you got the Miami Heat. They've been struggling a little bit to kind of start the season, obviously. Mm-hmm. So not a lot of teams, and not a lot of people may have had them, as one of those top teams going into the season, just because some of the guys that they lost. I know Jimmy's a year older, Bam's a year older. I know they tried to go all in for Dame, and that didn't necessarily work out. Is there anything in these standings right now that kind of surprises you, or anything that kind of just stands out to you a little bit at all?
Honestly, I'm not seeing anything that surprises me. I mean, yes, it's concerning. Well, I wouldn't say concerning for the Miami Heat that they're like sitting at 3 and 4 right now, but last year they kind of did the same thing, and look how it ended up for them in the long run. So I'm not really concerned for Miami, mainly because the development of Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo showing up and showing out in games like this. And then, of course, obviously, I can't really say anything about Jimmy Butler, right? Because we all know what Jimmy Butler is, and we all know what he's capable of, right? I feel like as the season progresses, then we'll start to see Miami potentially becoming a threat, right? But right now, they just literally have to figure out. I mean, I've actually been in some Heat spaces earlier, like this week and last week, and one of the main concerns that they were talking to me about is who's necessarily coming off of their bench, right? I'm looking at this Miami benches, and it's not particularly strong, right? It's not particularly like standing out as like excellent or anything, right? So they're just having a hard time trying to figure out rotations and who's coming off the bench, this, that, and the third. So I think that's probably the main concern for the Miami Heat. But like I said, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah. Like I said, you look at some of the guys they lost last year. Max Strus is in Cleveland, Gabe Vincent's in LA right now. Obviously Udonis Haslem isn't there anymore because he's retired, but he just signed on as I think they're vice president of player development or something like that. So he's obviously a Heat lifer. UD is going to be, with the Heat as long as he can be in any capacity. So I won't be surprised if at some point he's going to be, up there in the front office with Pat Riley or something like that. Looking at the standings, obviously, like I said, we're in the first couple of weeks of the season. I look at Orlando. I understand that they are an extremely young team. They got Paolo, they got Franz, they got a lot of these young guys, Suggs, a lot of these guys that are going to be looking to kind of make names for themselves and kind of make that jump. I did not necessarily see them as that type of team that's going to make this leap early, but again, it is early in the season. We looked at what Utah did last year, and they kind of fell off. So obviously, it is a long regular season. But looking at Orlando,
I think they were the number 1 seed, Utah, at some point last year, but then they just like completely lost it.
Yeah. So you look at the Pacers. I was strong on them. I know one of the last games they had a shellacking against the Spurs, so they kind of shut down.
Which is coming off the same shellacking that we gave them like a few nights ago, which is kind of
ironic. I look at Atlanta. I wasn't really too high on them just because I'm still not necessarily 100% sure how this Trae Young, DeJounte Murray pairing is going to go. It is what it is. I like at Trae. He's one of the better, players in the game in terms of like, shooting the ball, getting points up and things like that. He can kind of create off the dribble. But you look at this team, it's still like early for me to kind of look at them and think that they're going to be one of those teams that's going to be, contending. I don't know what their thought process is of how they want to make moves at the deadline or just something like that. But there's obviously a lot of stuff to talk about. And then you got these top 3 teams up here, obviously with Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee. Yeah, obviously, Milwaukee's sitting at 4-2. I know a lot of people are talking about how the loss of Drew Holiday is a lot more significant than people are giving credit for. Just that defensive presence. I think Milwaukee's sitting at one of the bottom teams in the league in defense right now. So a lot of people looking at that as saying, you traded Drew and you got Dame, which is cool because you gave Giannis a punch in terms of like, that offensive firepower, but you lost a lot in the defensive prowess that was Drew Holiday, and he is now sitting on that number one team that is the Boston Celtics. So, and then you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, who I'm going to be completely honest with you, I wasn't 100% sure what to do with this team and what their mental toughness was going to be like, with the whole James Harden saga. I know there were some reports that came out earlier this week where I'm gonna just go ahead and get into this right now, where Mr. James Harden had the nerve to say that he is not a system player, he is the system. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm saying this from a standpoint of a Lakers fan, but also a basketball fan as well. I'm not gonna say savant. I am sitting here praying on the Clippers' downfall so heavily, it is not even funny, because you look at what they're going to be at next year. We can get to them here in a little bit when we go over to the West. Paul George isn't necessarily set for next year. Kawhi isn't set for next year. James Harden isn't set for next year. You got your top three players that are going to be sitting there right there. And then you also got Russell Westbrook, who has, I think, another 2 years on his contract. If y'all don't make a run this year, I am going to be relentless on social media about every single thing that this Clippers organization is talking about. And like I said, I'm not going to get too much into it, but JR has a video that we will show later on this quote unquote rivalry that is the Lakers and Clippers. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at this Clippers team, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, y'all got 4 of the top 30 best players in the game right now. And some people might make an argument for Russ. He's still up there in my opinion. He's still a great point guard. If y'all don't make something shake, it's going to be a long, long, long off season. We all going over to y'all's new arena with the 1,100 toilets, whatever that Steve Ballmer has going. So I don't really know what to say about that. But going back over to, the East real quick. Right now, you guys are tied with Philly. Joel Embiid is doing Joel Embiid things, currently the reigning MVP. I understand y'all did take a loss this past week to the Minnesota Timberwolves in a thriller. Ant-Man was doing some unbelievable things. So I want to get your thoughts on that. I understand it just happened, but I want to kind of get your thoughts on that, how you feel about it. What do you think are some things that could have gone better? And what are some things that you guys can learn from this going forward into the next game?
We paid Peyton Pritchard $30 million to do what? To do what? Right? This man's coming off the bench. This man is coming off the bench, and I'm seeing this stat like 0-3 for what? 0-3 from the field, 0-3 from the guy. I just don't understand. Like I've been saying that the Celtics bench was going to be a problem for us going into the season, right? And this is exactly what I mean when I say that we even with our good players, right? Even with our good players, we always seem to play down to the competition. Now, I've had some people on Twitter tell me that the Minnesota Timberwolves are indeed a top 10 team, right? That's with Carl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, right? I was told, right? So I wouldn't necessarily call it playing down to the competition, but this is exactly what the Celtics do, right? We are supposed to be the better team, and yet it took them going into overtime to beat us, right? And we couldn't rely on our bench for nothing. Sam Hauser just chucking up threes. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, just stop shooting threes, man. Stop shooting threes. Like I said, this is our problem. We live by the 3 and we die by the 3. If our shots are not falling, then we fall apart at the seams. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of it, man. I'm tired. Like honestly, like Jesus Christ. I understand. I might be overreacting. I might be exaggerating because this is our first loss in the season, 6-game season. But Jesus Christ, man. This is exactly what I'm talking about when these problems tend to show in games like this. But I'm done.
Yeah. So real quick,
and then we face Philadelphia tomorrow, who's coming on a 5-game winning streak. So we better bring our A game, or else oh my god, like no. I can't afford this team to lose to the freaking Sixers. I really can't. I can't do it. But
Hey, look. The way I see it like this, it's a long season. It's 82 games. It's a it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So,
right.
JR brought up a good question down in the comments. It's like, who's finishing with a better record, the Lakers or the Celtics? I'm gonna be honest with you. I think I honestly I'm gonna hate myself for this. I think Boston might actually finish with a better record, and I'm gonna say this with all the love in my heart. I look at this game that we played it yesterday against the Miami Heat, which we lost by a point. Which I look at that last sequence, Cam Reddish. The shot was that close. I honestly think the Celtics are going to have like a better chance to have a better record because I think they're a more well-rounded team. I feel like they're going to have the better capabilities of staying healthy. I don't necessarily know what's going to happen with AD going forward with the rest of the season. Obviously, he got hurt. There's a chance that he's going to play in the next game. At least he's going to try, but it's going to be difficult. I understand, nobody's playing today, but I honestly think it might be Boston. What about you? Do you think it's going to be the Lakers, or do you think the Celtics are going to finish with a better record?
I think it's going to be the Celtics, right? As you pointed out, we are the better, well-rounded team, right? Even though we technically don't have a true. I mean, Porzingis, like I said in the last video, he was kind of more like a stretch forward, right? We're still lacking that really big, like true big, like a Bam or a Jokic, right? But hey, here we are still. I mean, we're pretty much using Porzingis as like a center moving forward. I mean, he's got the height for it. I mean, he's gotten astonishing blocks for us over the past few games. And yeah, I mean, if we can get our freaking bench situation all figured out, then I say that we can have the better record than the Lakers, man. And the whole AD situation, right? Can somebody explain to me why AD keeps getting outclassed by these elite centers? I thought Anthony Davis, right, when healthy, I thought he was just this dominant machine, right? That can get you points, that can get you boards on Anthony Davis can easily get you 20, 10, and I'm just throwing this just out there, 5 in a game on a nightly basis, right?
No,
but why is it that every time he goes up against centers like Jokic and Bam, he gets completely shut down? I just don't understand.
I'm gonna be real with you. I honestly do think AD is gonna have a better chance to bounce back this year. I know he's been working, relentlessly in the offseason. We saw the videos and other things like that, but I think he's gonna be able to bounce back and have a better showing. I understand this is kind of like a freak accident, but I hope that he will be able to play the next game we got, which is against Houston. And I'm hoping that we get a chance to get a win because I want to shut Dillon Brooks up because Dillon Brooks came out and was like, oh, I'm ready to shut down LeBron. Dillon, I need you to realize one thing. You better stop poking the bear because you saw what happened last time you did that. Dillon Brooks needs to learn to shut his mouth.
What happened last time? I saw it. I watched that whole entire series.
I'm like, all right, keep poking you want to. If I don't, hey, it is what it is. So, but yeah, looking at the stretch we got the Rockets coming up tomorrow. We got Phoenix on Friday. That's going to be an in-season tournament game. We got the Blazers, the Grizzlies, and the Kings. So that's a good little stretch for us. I feel like we have a chance to come out of those games, probably 5-0, maybe 4-1. I'm looking at that Suns game. We'll kind of see what's going to happen. Book's been kind of injury. I don't want to say injury prone, but he's been out a lot of these games as well. So we'll go ahead and look at the Western Conference too, as we're talking about them right now. Obviously, you have the defending champion Denver Nuggets sitting at number 1. Dallas is at 2. Warriors 3. The Timberwolves are 4 right there. Pelicans 5. OKC 6. And you got the Clippers, Rockets, Suns, and the Lakers. Which, to be completely honest, looking at these 10 teams, with the exception of the Rockets, because honestly, this is an early season. I honestly think this is about who we all thought would be in contention in the West. Obviously, I feel like Sacramento, they're off to a slow start with 2-4. De'Aaron Fox has been battling some injuries as well. But I feel like looking at these 10 teams, this is about who we thought was going to be in the running. Obviously, with Denver leading the pack. Dallas, I was a little bit iffy about. I know, with the whole Luka and Kyrie duo, hoping, that backcourt's going to be a little bit lethal, or more lethal this year. I know that's a defensive liability back there, but, you get them on offensive end, and it's like, a nightmare. And then you got the Warriors, the Timberwolves, who were sitting at 4-2, which I going back to the earlier comment, I was talking to one of my friends, Anthony, earlier, and there's a lot of people saying, oh, Minnesota's really has a chance to do it this year. You got Cat, you got Rudy, you got Ant. Call it a gut feeling. I still have no faith in this team. I understand you have like these three guys, but at the same time, obviously Ant's going to be that leader for you. I just think at some point they're going to fall by the wayside. Something's going to happen, and they're going to at some point. I feel like either realize they need to move Cat or do something with Rudy in that contract. I don't know what it is, but they got to figure out what they're going to do with one of those two. And if they want to try to compete, or if they don't want to compete, really, this kind of retool and try to find a way to kind of maybe rebuild at some point. Obviously, OKC is 6. I'm gonna be real. I really like where they're at right now. Obviously, they have a chance to do a lot of different things this year. I look at this team. They're great. With Shea, Chet, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, that core is going to be so good to watch for the next few years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking at honestly, I look at the Spurs. They're sitting right here at the cusp. Again, we're only a couple weeks into the season, but the Spurs are sitting right here, and I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but I feel like when we look at Wembanyama and what he's done so far this season as a rookie, it is almost unreal. We've had a couple of guys talk about him, KD and all these other guys coming out here. He is one of those guys that is one of one. You don't see this dude with this type of length that can bring the ball up the court and take 3 dribbles just to get past half court maybe, and pull up from beyond the 3-point arc. It is nuts to look at him and think that he's able to do what he's doing. He is I understand y'all got Kristaps Porzingis, but this man right here, Victor, is a true unicorn and is a one of one. I understand, people look at Porzingis and oh, he's a unicorn. Nah, Victor, I feel like is that dude right now. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that, though, looking at the West. But looking at this Western Conference, is there anything, like I said, same with the East, that stands out to you that you kind of see, or what are you thinking right now?
Looking at the Western Conference right now, I'm really kind of surprised that the Kings are off to a slow start. But like I said, stuff is just gonna get settled out with them eventually. I think De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis are really gonna help uplift the team right now. They're gonna really uplift the team right now. I mean, they're not necessarily a bad team, even though they lost 3 in a row. They're not necessarily a bad team. I think what it is just that they're trying to. I think they're just trying to establish an identity. I think that's what they're trying to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really surprised at the Grizzlies right now. I mean, Jesus Christ, even with Marcus Smart down there, it's just whoa, what is going on? And then they're coming off of their first win of the season, Jesus Christ. But I just, even if Ja does come back after his 25-game suspension, which should have been more, by the way, I just don't think the Grizzlies are gonna recover soon enough in order for them to qualify for postseason contention. So I think they're just out of the picture until the time being, right? And then looking at this Western Conference right now, I'm seeing that there is a 4-way tie between the Suns, Lakers, Spurs, and Trailblazers because they're all within 3.5 games of each other, right?
Right.
So now, like I said, it's still early in the season, but that just goes to show you how fiercely competitive that this conference has. I mean, it's been competitive like this for years. Let's not sit here and be surprised about this, right? It's just how it's always been, right? The Spurs, especially with Wembanyama, right? Victor, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the kid is incredible, right? He is just absolutely phenomenal, right? Watching him defend some of these players on the court, it's just how do you try to how can you try to score on that? Like he has the wingspan, he has the height, like he basically pretty much has everything, man. And I absolutely love what the Spurs are doing with this kid. Just get him like a supporting cast maybe, and then he'll be fine. But right now Victor's on a rampage right now, and I, I think one of my favorite highlights is watching him versus Durant that one game. I think it was last week when they went head to head. It was just something to behold, right? You have one of the greatest prospects of all time since LeBron, and then going up against probably one of the most versatile shot creators in the league
Right.
up to this date. So it was a truly beautiful sight to hold, and this Victor guy is going to be a force to reckon with in the NBA for years to come, right? And then OKC, I'm not really surprised because of their core contingent on them staying together, and hopefully they get SGA paid if they haven't already. But pretty much, I mean, that's it. I mean, the Nuggets are the Nuggets. The Mavericks are pretty much the Mavericks, right? Luka Magic is all the rage these days, right? And then I'm really surprised, and then I'll say this last. I'm really surprised at the Warriors being up there. I think they're number 3, albeit with them at 6-2, right?
Yeah, they're sitting at 6-2 right now.
This is pretty much the older iteration of the Golden State regime that we haven't previously seen in years, right? And it's kind of surprising that they're pretty much at like this stage where it's like, okay, yeah, we're at the number 3 seed in the Western Conference right now. Now, how do we build on that, right? And they just recently acquired Chris Paul during the offseason, right? So now I'm just shocked. I mean, but hey, experience does pay off, especially for an older team like Golden State. So I'm really gonna keep a closer eye on them in the meantime.
Yeah. One thing that I want to kind of bring up before I know JR's question, things like that. I think one of the biggest knocks on the Warriors last year, that kind of set them up for where they were was, they had a terrible road record. I think it was one of the worst in the league. And as of right now,
no, it was the worst in the league.
Yeah, it was. And then right now they're sitting at currently 5-1 on the road. So looking at it, I think that's one of those things that they wanted to make sure that they got back to is like, we want to make sure that we're in a better position this year because we don't want to be in that same spot to where we got to go on the road. It's going to be tough because you saw that series against the Kings last year and then with the Lakers too.
So that series, by the way, but it's okay. If it wasn't for if it wasn't for Harrison Barnes 3, they would have won the series. I'm just saying.
I mean, if Harrison Barnes knocks the shot down, you do, yeah. But we can't talk about what if it kind of happened that way. So looking at, I know Jared had a question down here. He was talking about it. It says, questions for the panel. What's your blow it up number? Like, how many losses before Christmas do you take to blow up your squad? Looking at it right now, I think for most of the teams, if you're looking around that date, it's like 20 or so games before Christmas. And I think most of the teams have played a good 6 or 7 already. So in my opinion, I think if you're looking at somewhere between 12 to 15 losses, like, because that's going to put you well under 500 over the course of like the next month and a half, you might need to start looking at some things. I don't want to say for some teams you have to blow it up at that particular moment, but at that point, it's going to be like you are probably going to start to see yourself in panic mode because, like I said, 12 to 15 losses over the course of the next 20 or so games leading to around that Christmas time is going to be tough to try to come back from, especially if you're already behind the 8 ball in terms of like that win-loss record. So let's say you're sitting at I'll use the Grizzlies like as an example. It's kind of low-hanging fruit. They're 1-6 right now. If they lose 12 to 15 games, they're looking at 18 losses, give or take, in that range. Granted, Jaw's going to be back at some point in between that too, but you also have to think about it. You've already kind of tried to do some stuff this offseason with, going to get Derrick Rose, going to get Marcus Smart. You look at, a guy like Kenny Lofton, who should be kind of taking a leap. If you don't know now, Kenny Lofton, that's a big boy. He played the last regular season game for the Grizzlies. you don't. Honestly, hell, I'm looking at it from a fantasy standpoint. If you don't look at Kenny Lofton, if he doesn't get more burn this year, I blame Memphis, but I definitely should look at him. Anyways, somewhere in that range, 18 to like 20-ish losses between now and then, it's gonna be tough. You might want to start looking at, towards next season. Do I want to sit here and be like, maybe we kind of want to rethink how we're gonna be at? Because the trades that they're done isn't for a while. But at that point, you might want to start renegotiating some things, like maybe looking at reworking some contracts, restructuring some things for some of these players, kind of getting some money off the books, looking towards getting, some draft capital, kind of getting some assets flipped and things like that. Again, I looked at the Memphis Grizzlies just because it's low-hanging fruit because they have 6 losses right now. They only have 1 win. But that's kind of my thought process, kind of looking at it. I don't know where your head might be at on that. Like, what do you think is going to be like that area where if the team has this amount of losses, they might want to start looking towards like revamping some things?
Honestly, I'm taking a look at that very same number between like kind of like 15 to 20. Like I'm looking at teams like, well, I'm excluding the Wizards because they're pretty much within that rebuilding phase. I'm looking at teams like the Bulls, the Hornets, the Pistons, and then going to the Western Conference, I'm seeing the Grizzlies, the Jazz, and then the Trail. Well, I'm excluding the Trailblazers because they're rebuilding.
They're already rebuilding, yeah.
They're rebuilding. Spurs are technically in the rebuild kind of stage, right? Sacramento, like I said, I hope that they turn things around, but if they don't find a way to like win games, and if they go back to being what they were before last season, changes have to come, right? They definitely have to come. Looking at a good example like the Pistons, right? Like I could have sworn that people were telling me that the Pistons were on the come up this year, right? I was told all these different things on my timeline, right? Watch out for the Pistons, right? But the Pistons right now, they're sitting at 2-6. They're losing 5 in a row. I don't know. Is Detroit not as good as what people were expecting to be? I think that's the case, but we'll see.
Detroit, I know a lot of people looking at this core. You look at, Cade, you look at a guy like Killian Hayes, I forget, they got like Isaiah Stewart's, Amen Thompson, I think is who they have. Or it might be a sword. I got to look at that roster again. But they have an extremely young core. So I hesitate to look at some of these younger cores and think, oh, you have to blow this up right now. Like, it's going to, like, you just have to go ahead and just go start building everything from scratch. They don't really have much to go off of. So it's like, why would you want to try to blow it up if you already have a young core? You might want to just kind of like.
That's what I'm saying, But the fact is that they've been trying to rebuild or trying to establish an identity for you. I mean, let's take a look, right? Besides Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes, and then I think it's Cade Cunningham. Yep, Cade Cunningham, right? Let's take a look at their pieces, right? You have Marvin Bagley, right? You have Bojan Bogdanovic, right? Joe Harris, right? I mean, Monte Moore. I mean, look, and then they have Asar Thompson.
So Asar, okay, yeah. So
Thompson and Isaiah Stewart. I mean, and James Wiseman. I mean, looking at this roster, I mean, they're relatively young. I mean, their oldest guy is Bogdanovic, 34. So
yeah.
I mean, you really have to think and analyze for a second here.
Yeah, I look at some of the younger teams. I'm like, I don't know if I would try to blow it up. Or you just kind of have to like roll with the punches and just kind of keep pushing forward.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of teams that are rebuilding, I know we talked about Victor a little bit. I wanted to kind of pull up some highlights from that Spurs game or one of the Spurs games where it was like a back-to-back. They played them like 2 games in like 3 nights or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the Spurs got the better of them both times. So I want to kind of just bring that up and kind of see. This is the first time I've done it. I've like kind of killed the audio just because I don't necessarily know what's gonna happen with this, but we'll kind of see. But we'll see how this plays out though. So I just want to kind of play this real quick and just kind of show people who, if you haven't already seen Victor and how this man plays, you just look at him. Like I said, look at how tall he is. Look at his build. For a guy to be the build that he does, he should be able to do some of these things. So just kind of look at it. So looking at it from his standpoint, he's coming off the screen. He's rolling, catches an alley-oop, off a pick and roll. He barely has to jump off the ground. Like, for one, let's put that in perspective. This man's like a 7-footer. He barely has to jump off the ground for this. So it's wild to look at. Looking at it again, coming off a back end, boom, right there. I think in this game, I hope he gets another one. Like I said, he's posting up in the paint, and this pass right here, this is another one. Man's getting doubled. Gets the assist to Jeremy Sochan. If you look at it again, Isaiah Livers, has a pass. He gets the pass to Sochan with one hand and dishes it right back to him. Like, again, it's ridiculous to kind of look at him. It's like in one fluid motion. He catches it. He sees Sochan cut into the basket, drops the pass off right there. Like, his length in terms of his build, size, height, that gives him it gives him an advantage in terms of, like, obviously shooting. Because I don't understand how any guy would be able to, like, block his shot or, like, contest his shot, because the arc and the high point of his shot is so high. Like, you have to jump damn near like 20 feet in the air, I feel like, just to kind of, have a chance to block the shot. But also, like, he has a great vision in terms of, like, being able to pass ball, like we saw with that Sochan pass. So I think people fail to realize just how great this kid can be. From just not just an offensive standpoint of his shooting and his ball handling, but his passing as well. So just kind of looking at more of this stuff, we'll kind of get some more highlights going. Like I said, he's trailing on a fast break right here. Looks up, pulls up from inside the free throw line on a dunk, which is, just ridiculously nasty. Like I said, crazy reviews on this. So 1-2, rises up. There's no point in trying to block that. Like, he's just gonna. No. And this is one right here.
The wingspan, the arm length is
right.
Everything.
And this is one of the ones I was talking about earlier. Literally dribbles, like 2 or 3 dribbles, pulls up from 3. And I'm just like, what the hell are we doing? Like, it is nuts. Like, it's nobody's business that this man is able to do what he does. Like, I forget, somebody on Twitter, I think, used a reference like, what is it, like a speed burst when you're playing 2K? You just kind of dribble and then you use that speed burst to kind of go up a little bit. And he pulls up and nails a 3. And I'm like, who is this man? This man was built in a lab and makes no sense whatsoever how he's able to do the things he does. He's built in a lab. I think a lot of people are looking at him and thinking, he's a center. He's a bigger guy. He's a twig in terms of his size. His build is going to cause him to get injured and stuff like that. I'm not trying to think about that. He's been waiting for this moment for the better part of his young NBA career. Obviously, he's just not starting now. So,
correct.
Man, Iggy just came in and like, tell Deontay we want to recap the T-Wolves and the Celtics. I mean, we kind of already did. There
is no recap, right? The bench stinks. We paid Peyton Pritchard way too much money for him to not be able to be efficient on the freaking court, right? So that's done. That's over with, right? That's out of the window. But going back to Wemby, right? I pretty much had no doubts as to how great this kid was going to be, right? All I had to do was just see for myself, and lo and behold, this is what he does. This is what he's capable of, right? And I don't even think that it's too early to say because he's just getting started, but we haven't even really seen him in his prime. Give it 2 to 3 more years, and if he continues to do what he's doing in his rookie year, then Jesus Christ, the league is gonna be put on notice if they're not already. So, like I said, I never really doubted Wemby's abilities from the get-go, from the jump. I really wasn't critical about him because, like I said, like, it's Wemby. Like, Jesus Christ, like, give the young man a chance. Like, this whole comparing him to LeBron stuff, like, let Victor be Victor, right? LeBron as a talent, as a prospective talent, was good. He was great, right? Victor as a prospect was great, right? Now it's time to let this young man become what we all expected him to be, right? I'm not worried about him becoming the next LeBron. Like, no, I'm not putting labels on this man. Right now, this man is this man, along with many others, is the future of the NBA, and the NBA's future is in good hands with kids like him. And I'll go back one more time to reiterate that the U.S. is not the standard. It's not the end all be all of professional sports or professional basketball, right? Looking at guys like Luka and Giannis and now Victor, right? They're all shining in their greatest moments here in the NBA, right? So it is what it is. But that's all I have to say on this subject.
And then going into the, talking about the international players, you're looking at guys like SGA, who's, he came from Canada. Obviously, Joel Embiid. A lot of these guys, like I said, I'm kind of thinking about some of these top guys that are like in that upper echelon. The NBA is a global game. A lot of people need to realize that it's a global game. I understand people are looking to reach the NBA because that is their end-all, be-all goal. But the NBA has grown so much as a whole. You got so many different players from different backgrounds. It doesn't take much in terms of like, trying to play basketball. You need a ball and a hoop. You don't need anybody else out there with you. You can just go out there, shoot some shots, work on your ball handling, things like that. And I look at that and kind of the same thing in terms of like, I don't know if this is a good comparison, but just kind of in the top of my head, I look at it like soccer in terms of like where this global game is. Basically, one of the things you need is a ball. Even if I'm looking at soccer, you need a ball and a goal. Same thing with basketball. You need a ball and a hoop.
Yep.
I mean,
it
doesn't take much. You just kind of like
even though it says National Basketball Association, it's a global phenomenon. Just look around. Look around. It's not constricted to the U.S., but it's basically everywhere.
Right. So I want to get into this last little bit before we get ready to finish up for the night. I know I got with JR a little bit earlier in the week, or last week. We were going back and forth. Like, hey, is there anything you want to kind of me to talk about in terms of the show? So I had him bring up this whole thing, with the Lakers and the Clippers and their rivalry and things like that. And like I said, he got a video together, so I'm gonna go ahead and share that with you guys right now. It's gonna be, I think, 5.5 minutes. I got it edited and stuff like that. So we'll kind of get into that little for a moment after the video's over with, just kind of get an idea of where people's eyes are in terms of like that quote unquote rivalry that is the NBA's with the Lakers and the Clippers, which depending on who you ask, might not necessarily be a rivalry, but it is what it is. So like I said, I'll go and bring that video up real quick and you guys enjoy. And we will get back to it afterwards once JR is done speaking his piece.
Going to be there, fellas, on OTB today. Shout out to Rico and Deontay for having me on and speaking hoops as usual. It's been somewhat of a crazy week. As far as hoops goes, as far as media goes, we've seen some really odd losses by some big teams, and we've had a lot of things blow up on social media, had some interesting fallouts because of that. And due to that, I have been asked to basically address one of the topics of conversation that had unfolded due to results from and a certain team that we will address in just a moment. But before we do, Lakers versus everybody? Not really. What I actually want to do is address the whole thing about rivalries here. You guys will know what I'm talking about in just a moment, but before we get into it, again, shout out to the sports affiliation for having us on. Don't forget to give us a shout out. Follow us, hit the app button, like, and subscribe on the YouTube videos, and check out OTB every Tuesday going on during the NBA season. Hit your boy at Rico Modern World and Deontay Adam01. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about rivals real quick. A rival must have I'm going to go over these 4 points in quick succession, so keep up. All right, so first things first. An equal must have the rival must have an equal starting point. Sorry about that. Probably edit that out later. Doesn't matter. Second thing is they must share a goal. Third thing is they must have successes that rival or mirror your own. The last thing is an image that mirrors you. Okay, let's start with number one, an equal starting point. When someone says that you and them are rivals, you gotta be starting out from the same spot. And the reason why that's so important is because if someone comes late into whatever game that you're getting into, whatever thing that you're getting into, then that thing has essentially, specifically for sports, has evolved past a point to where it essentially allows that other person to have an easier starting point. You, on the other hand, have had your struggles, have had your changes, have changed the game to a point where basically you could be or would be the image or the pinnacle of what other teams are trying to get to. You can't have a rival if someone's a neophyte at the game that you've been playing. I don't make the rules. Those are just the ones to live by. You must have a shared goal. Basketball, the overall goal is to win the Larry O'Brien. That's it. Doesn't matter how you get to the playoffs. Doesn't matter what back channels you have to do that. Now we got the play-in tournament. We got changes in the schedule. We got now the in-season tournament. We got all kinds of things that affect teams to get to the end. The point is to be able to play those 16 games at the end to win to get the trophy overall. Yeah, there may be an asterisk by your name, like people love to throw that out on social media, but it doesn't matter. Everyone's got to share a goal. Everyone wants to try to hit that goal. Third thing, must have successes that rival or mirror your own. This is why it's important to have an equal starting point, because you could be starting in a league or start your own race clear across town. It doesn't add up. Get to that in a bit. Okay, an image that mirrors your own. If I'm a football player and I come into the NBA and then I say that I'm gonna do nothing but try to beat LeBron James, and then I come in and I play LeBron, whatever team he's on, 4 games out of the season, and I'm locking LeBron down, it doesn't really mean the same thing as someone who's been playing in the league for as long as LeBron has and has trying to been doing the same thing, because they'll put those two together. I just got in the league. My actual image, the look of me, wherever I come in, I look like a football player. I act like a football player. My whole thing is football, but I just want to beat LeBron. It's a very small goal, and the image of me does not look like what people are putting into the Cain versus Abel type of matchups for rivalries, okay? Now, all this is especially important. Remember, we're going to go back over. Equal starting point, must have a shared goal. Successes that rival or mirror your own, and an image that mirrors you. Who the fuck said that the Clippers were our rivals? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little segment right here. Rico, appreciate you for having me on. Deontay, I appreciate you having me on. You guys tell me what you think in the comments. And I'll be listening in on Tuesday. Peace.
Yeah. So again, shout out to my boy JR. I love having him in here, man. Like I said, it's always dope. It's all get out. So yeah, basically it boils down to this. The one of the few rivals that I see the Lakers having in the league, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of what he just talked about, is honestly it's the Celtics. Like you look at that rivalry, is as old as the beginning of time.
Itself.
2 of the top teams in terms of like championships in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've had finals matchups before. The Clippers have yet to even get to a finals. I know a lot of Clippers fans are talking about how they had this win streak over us for like the longest. It's like, oh, the Clippers have had this ridiculously long regular season winning streak against the Lakers. Wonderful. We beat y'all on Christmas. Cool.
Nope.
Yet the second we beat them this past week, week before last, it's like crickets. It's like, oh, it's just one game. It's not that big a deal. Y'all was clamoring so much about that streak y'all had on us, and now y'all can't dangle that over us anymore. Now what y'all got to say? And then y'all just went and got a new addition in Mr. James Harden, and he made his debut yesterday against the Knicks, and they lost to the Knicks, and now they're currently sitting at 500. Again, this is going back to what I said earlier. So I'm looking at the Clippers right now as a whole. Look at this team. And people are probably going to say this about the Lakers. I understand that. Lakers championship or bust type of team. I understand that. It comes with the territory as a Lakers player and as a Lakers fan. If y'all don't make something shake this year, Clippers, again, everybody's going to be on y'all's heads. Lakers fans more than anybody, but they are going to be relentless. The Lakers and Clippers is not a rivalry by any means of the imagination. Y'all want to sit here and dangle this carrot. Oh, cool. Regular season champions. Y'all beat us a lot of times. Cool. Y'all got one finals appearance in the last, 4 years, or one conference finals appearance in y'all's entire franchise history.
And that was back in, 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
During that bubble.
So, I don't know. 2021. The Clippers, y'all can't sit here and tell me that they are, much of a rival to us or anybody in the league. So
no,
I digress. If people are going to say what they want to say, but it is what it is. So real quick, I want to get your thoughts on that before we kind of finish up and get out of here, though. So
the Clippers and the Lakers is not a rival. It's not a rivalry, not at all. It's like one of those things where it's just like, oh, well, guess what? We went on a road. But is it really a rivalry, right? Because I've seen the Lakers best the Clippers more times than one. It's kind of like watching the Celtics and the Sixers, right? It's not really a rivalry, right? Of course, these Sixers fans may chirp and bark or whatever they do, but we pretty much gotten the best of them, especially in the playoffs. Like Tatum pretty much owns their franchise ever since he gotten drafted in 2017. So, and this is a team that's done nothing since 2001. So, I'm not particularly worried about them, right? They have yet to make a conference finals. They have yet to make it. They have yet to be Eastern Conference champions, which we haven't seen in a while, right? They have yet to even make a finals appearance, which we have yet to see, right? So it's not really. Joel Embiid said it best. It's not really a rivalry because they're always kicking our ass. That's pretty much basically what he said, right? But in terms of what rivalry really means, look at the Celtics and look at the Lakers. Two teams in two different conferences, right? We've had Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson, Kobe versus Paul Pierce, right? I would have loved to see Jason Tatum versus LeBron James in the finals, but we already got that in the Eastern Conference Finals before in 2018. So, but like I said, that is the pure definition of rivalry right there. What the Clippers and Lakers got, it's nothing. It's nothing. I don't know why these Clippers fans are so adamant about them. Oh, well, guess what? We got James Harden. Oh, yeah, you mean the guy that didn't really do anything for the Sixers last year, right? The same James Harden that always tends to disappear when it's crunch time, right? When the lights are brightest, right? The same James Harden that hasn't scored more than 30 points per game since 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
But y'all still want to chirp, right? I don't see this core lasting more than 10 games playing with each other, all of them at once on the same court. I don't see it happening. So wrap it up. It's not a rivalry. So stop it. It's not a rivalry at all.
Well, they got one game under their belt. It was an L. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes for you. Real quick, like I said, shout out to JR for that video, man. I appreciate you. I know I talked to him about it, early in the week. So I appreciate you for that, bro. Like I said, that's pretty much it for us for tonight. Like I said, it was a good conversation. Hope everybody had a good time. Like I said, we'll be here every Tuesday during the season unless otherwise stated. But like I said, it's been a fun time for y'all, from everybody. If you haven't already had a chance to, be sure to look out for the next show that's going to be coming up after us. It's going to be the Game Changers. That's going to be at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30, well, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. So, like I said, we'll be wrapping it up here in a little bit. Make sure y'all make time for them. Like I said, great show. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, go look at that for real. And in the meantime, like I said, that's it. We'll see y'all next week. Like I said, if you know anybody who wants to come on with the show, like I said, feel free to send them our way. We'd love to have some other people on just talking hoops and stuff like that. But like I said, in the meantime, we'll see y'all next Tuesday. Tell your friends about us. We'll be talking more basketball, but y'all have a good night.
Have a good night.